Howdy everyone! I have a question, do you have an answer? What would our lives be like without fire? And what are the deadliest fires in history?
Fire. The discovery of fire by humans was a long and difficult process, and part of that process remains a mystery today. Nearly all animal species react to the natural phenomenon of fire, but only humans have learned how to make it at will. Some birds have been observed carrying burning twigs in their beaks to spread fire and drive out their prey. But let's not start spreading rumors that Antifa birds are starting the wildfires. Follow me in this tragic exploration of the deadliest fires in history, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more strange news stories told by an alien and her imaginary friend, a pair that otherwise can't be found anywhere. Fire, hundreds of thousands of years ago, was synonymous with survival. But also fire played a fundamental role in human evolution. For one thing, without fire, human productivity would have been less. Have you ever been so busy that you find yourself wishing for more hours in the day? Well, be happy with modern technology because before electricity, and indeed fire, humans' activities were mostly limited to daylight hours. Without fire, mankind would have been much more vulnerable during the nighttime, since most predators adapted to see and move easily after the sun sets, while we humans have considerable difficulty seeing in the dark by comparison. Fire helps us every day, and above all, it allows us to enjoy eating dishes that we otherwise would not be able to taste. The heat of the fire not only kills harmful bacteria living in raw meat, it also makes food softer and easier to chew. If it weren't for cooking, we might still have large jaws and big strong teeth adapted to tearing through rough fibers of raw meat. Without fire, our brains would be smaller because to develop a larger brain you need lots of energy, which is produced by calories, and cooked food releases more calories than raw during digestion. So, what happens when we lose control of fire? In 587 BC, Solomon's temple and the city of Jerusalem was destroyed by fire after King Nebuchadnezzar II and the Babylonians captured the city and torched it, after Zedekiah, a vassal king installed by Nebuchadnezzar II, revolted. The fire that devastated the temple is described in detail in the Bible. Even if the information is fragmentary, it can be assumed that the king wanted to give a signal of his power. In particular, his people considered him semi-divine, and the destruction of the temple can be therefore considered a gesture to try and stem the early Jewish religion that was affirming itself in the period. In 146 BC, Carthage was burned down by Romans in 17 days at the end of the Third Punic War. Why? Carthage was the most important trading hub of the ancient Mediterranean, and one of the most affluent cities in the classical world. Scipio's 4,000 men fought until only 900 Roman deserters remained, and burnt down the temple of Ashen when all hope was lost. General Hasdrubal surrendered to Scipio on the promise of freedom, but his wife cursed him and walked into the burning temple with her children. At that time, Carthage was to affirm the power of the Roman Empire in Africa, and open the possibility of new trade in new territories. The worst fire in Roman history happened in July 64 AD. Some stories blame Nero for the disaster, implying that he started the fire so that he could bypass the Senate and rebuild Rome to his liking. But history tells the tragedy differently. The fire began in the merchant shops around Rome's Chariot Stadium, Circus Maximus, on the night of July 19th. After 6 days, the fire was brought under control, but before the damage could be assessed, the fire reignited and burned for another 3 days. In the aftermath of the fire, 2/3 of Rome had been destroyed. In 847, the area around St. Peter's Basilica in Rome was devastated by fire. Based on this event, between 1514 and 1517, Raphael, the Italian Renaissance artist, with his assistant Giulio Romano, created the famous painting The Fire in the Borgo. Rome wasn't the only historical city to be razed. Unfortunately, London too knows the destructive power of fire as well. Flames devoured the city in 1133, which is known to Londoners as the First Great Fire of London. This blaze was so severe that it destroyed most of the city between St. Paul's and St. Clement Danes in Westminster. And then on the 10th of July, 1212, the Second Great Medieval Fire of London was initially ignited in Southwark, the borough directly to the south of London Bridge. The fire destroyed the Southwark Cathedral and killed 3,000 people on the London Bridge while they tried to flee the city. Several months after, Ivan IV, better known as Ivan the Terrible, was officially crowned as first Tsar of Russia. In 1547, the city of Moscow was severely tested by a fire that swept into the Kremlin and blew the powder stores in several of the Kremlin's towers. 24 years later, the Crimean and Turkish army raided the city of Moscow during the Russo-Crimean Wars. Historians estimate that the number of casualties of this fire were from 60,000 to as many as over 200,000 people. In U.S. history, fire was responsible for many tragic events, with numerous deaths and devastation of private properties and forests. One of the most destructive fires in American history occurred in 1871, on October 8th, in northeastern Wisconsin. The fire burned approximately 1,200,000 acres and killed between 1,500 and 2,500 people. On the same day, in another part of the USA, a fire damaged the city of Chicago and went down in history for destroying roughly 3.3 square miles and killed approximately 300 people and left more than 100,000 residents homeless. A great firestorm consumed and destroyed Hinckley, Minnesota and 5 smaller communities on September 1, 1894. It was responsible for nearly 250,000 acres of burnt land. The official death toll of 418, according to historians, could not be accurate because they believe that hundreds of Native Americans in the area also perished but were not included in the official count. In 1910, flames spread from Idaho to Montana on August 20th and 21st. During this weekend, in what became known as the Devil's Broom Fire or the Big Blowup, 87 people died and several towns were destroyed, and it burned approximately 3 million acres. The extreme heat was due to western white pine that had a resinous sap that boiled and created a cloud of highly flammable gas, which spontaneously detonated dozens of times, seeing flames thousands of feet into the sky and a rolling wave of fire that was unstoppable. On October 10, 1918, a spark from a passing train ignited the parched landscape, and dry gusty winds combined to produce Minnesota's worst wildfire outbreak in state history. This fire went down in history under the name the Cloquet Fire, and it's remembered for being the 6th most deadly fire-related event in U.S. history, with 1,000 people who lost their lives. More recently, in 2018, was the worst and most destructive wildfire in California history, known as Camp Fire, named after its place of origin, Camp Creek Road. The fire started on November 8th in northern California's Butte County. Ignited by a faulty electric transmission line, the fire originated above several communities, and an east wind drove the fire downhill through developed areas. It exhibited extreme fire spread through the rural community of Conco, and an urban firestorm formed in the foothills town of Paradise. Only after the arrival of the first winter rainstorm of the season, the fire reached 100% containment. After 17 days on November 25, 2018, the fire caused at least 85 fatalities. It covered an area of 153,336 acres and destroyed 18,804 structures, with most of the destruction occurring within the first 4 hours. On April 15, 2019, flames enveloped the Cathedral of Notre in Paris, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The fire transformed the Lady of Paris into a sickly old woman. Today in 2020, unfortunately history repeats itself, and fires are putting a strain on firefighters and the people living in Oregon and California. The dense smoke smothers the Pacific Northwest, shutting residents indoors and complicating fire response. Dozens of wildfires are tearing through communities across the West, and as of Sunday, September 13th, have killed 33 people. Officials say dozens more are missing. Images from the ravaged areas are apocalyptic, with scorched trees and telephone poles poking from smoky gray ashen landscapes. Buildings are reduced to piles of brick, concrete, and metal. Cars sit in driveways and along roadsides, blackened and gutted. Major fires spanning several states have burned 4.6 million acres, but this is only an estimate that could get worse minute by minute. But to get an idea of what's happening in these hours, we can summarize the damage by thinking that an area roughly the equivalent to Connecticut and Rhode Island combined has been destroyed. Fires happen for many reasons, but make sure not to place blame based on a rumor unless the causes are confirmed by authorities and experts, and especially not on Antifa birds. What do you think? How fires affected your life? Don't be shy and leave a comment now. Your opinion matters. Also, if you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can find a link in the description as well as our store.
And don't forget to like, subscribe and share. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't, press thumbs down twice, just to be sure. Take it easy. Peace. Oh, by the way, I'm an alien. But not that kind of alien.